This is GovExec Daily, where we bring you the federal stories that really matter. It's July 13th, 2022. I'm Ross John Fortuné. The race for early career talent in government is an issue inside of a larger one. In a recent Government Accountability Office report, strategic human capital was flagged as an area of high-risk federal operations that has become worse. Government continues to struggle to hire young workers in key positions, and the public sector continues to have an older average age than other industries. According to research, there are fewer early career workers at government agencies today than there were 10 years ago. According to HP Federal, only 8% of the federal workforce across agencies is under 30 years old. That number is 15 percentage points lower than the private sector workforce. The federal government needs to recruit, hire, and retain younger and early career workers in order to continue to serve the government mission and the American public. Todd Gustafson is president of HP Federal. After a short break, he'll join me to discuss hiring and the race for young talent in government.
When a shiny new technology pops up, when a newly discovered flaw exploits a bedrock legacy system, when Congress and leadership demand modernization but won't provide more resources, when every update is critical, you need analysis that cuts through the noise to tell you exactly what you need to know. Join the Next Gov team as we speak with relevant federal leaders and experts to break down the science, the tech, the policies, and the people behind the latest emerging technologies. Subscribe in the Apple Store, Google Play, or through your favorite podcast platform to make sure you get the latest critical update.
Public service is an attractive career path because of its stability, especially against the current backdrop of a volatile economic situation. But hiring has been an issue for the federal government for years, and it continues to struggle to bring in younger and early career talent. Attracting and retaining such talent is key for a modern government, and technology could be one of the keys to transforming government hiring. Todd Gustafson is president of HP Federal. He joins me now to discuss hiring and the race for talent in government. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ross. Good to be here with you.
So where is the public sector on the spectrum of hiring young workers, particularly in the tech world? Are governments at all levels, and particularly the federal government, doing a good job, a bad job, a mediocre job, getting early career tech talent?
You know, Ross, I would suggest, based upon my experience, that the government is doing as good of a job as we might expect, with what I would say is across the leadership and enhanced recognition of the importance of focusing on, Gen Z as an element of career development that may be underserved. And particularly when you think about the vast majority of government workers today, the highest percentage of our employees are Gen X or boomers. And so as a result of that, the government and attracting a workforce have to reinvent themselves in terms of where they're going. So I would suggest, if you will, old grade school, a B plus, if you will. Not much different than industry. But the other thing that I would say is that there's an opportunity for the government to kind of link a couple things, which is, first, how do they upskill their existing workforce, right? You think about the intergenerational collaboration that might happen in the marketplace. Two, I think most people work in government are focused on the mission, right? What are they trying to accomplish? They're more progressive generally. They feel like they're politically engaged. And so I think all of those things tend to lend themselves to an opportunity for the government to attract more Gen Z into the workforce.
Well, let's sort of talk about the tech side of that and how they can do that. How can government help identify, or how can tech help government identify young talent and hire those Gen Z workers?
So I think first is that the government, and this isn't much different than commercial enterprises either, for that matter, Ross, is think about digital first in everything that they do. And if you think, we have 3 children that are under 25, traditional Gen Z. And they've grown up in an environment where a phone and a PC and a tablet are as attached to the hip as any other device that you and I may have used when we grew up. And so, one, the government and everything they need to do needs to be needs to be digital first. Secondarily, when you think about the processes the government uses today, even simple little things like hiring, is that hiring process a digital first approach? That in itself will, in and by itself, attract a younger generation workforce than someone that has to email and coordinate through a person how that might happen. And then lastly, they're going to look for automation in everything that they do and how they might improve upon that. So the opportunity for government workforce to go do that. Let me give you an example. You think about the post office, and the post office has been around almost as long as the U.S. government's been around, from the Pony Express to where it's today. And many might say that the post office is a thing of the past. I frankly think the work that, as an example, Preetha Mehra, the CIO at Postal, is reinventing everything about the way the post office delivers packages, mail, digital first approach, innovation, everything they do. And that transformation and that mission and what she's been able to do in the leadership at U.S. Post Office is nothing short of tremendous. And as a result of that, there's Gen Zs that want to come and want to become part of that reinvention.
Yeah, I know. I have a friend in Boston who's a mail carrier and I would say is young millennial, sort of the opposite end of the millennial spectrum to myself, and really a digital native and all that stuff, and definitely feels comfortable there. And again, the stability is a big part of that, but also the innovative stuff that she is even doing just on the mail carrier side. So let's sort of expand on that and see, as far as you talked about automation, but what other parts of the hiring process are important to digital natives, and how can those be brought to bear to hire and retain them?
So I think probably the single biggest thing is that a hybrid workforce is here to stay. And, you think about the majority of federal agencies have all developed and have all deployed a hybrid environment. That's really been focused on the existing workforce. And that opportunity to bring hybrid work to the forefront of attracting talent, which is you do your job where you want, when you want, and how you want. And we should be more focused on getting that job accomplished, if you will, as opposed to the fact that whether we can see you in person. And so how does government agencies think about collaboration, right? And the tools around collaboration in a what I would say is a bifurcated workforce. And so getting folks back to the office shouldn't be the goal line. The goal line should be, how do we advance digital automation in a way that Gen Z feels like they can be part of the innovation process, and then allowing, right? So from a government standpoint, the risks associated with that are around security. And so how might we provide tools that are part of that security? Let me give you one other example. Is the Department of Veterans Affairs deal with one of our most favored citizens in our country, those folks who have served. And throughout the VA, they're reinventing everything that they want to do, and buying devices, as simple as that might seem, a notebook for Gen Z and even for millennials. The device that you carry is part of your identity. The phone that you carry, the notebook that you carry. And so when the government thinks about the procurement process as part of that, they're using their device selection criteria as an element of providing hip devices that satisfy the ability for a Gen Z to be able to do their work, but also conduct their life, often from 1 minute to the next.
Well, you mentioned it, that a lot of the workforce currently, the public sector workforce, is in the X and Boomer cohorts. we can't ignore them. So how is that sort of integrated, less in the hiring, but more in the retention notion of how do you balance those two things? Because you got to cater to everybody in the workforce.
When I think about, I'm in the Gen X category in terms of where I'm at in my career. And it's interesting that when you think about the development that Gen Zs and millennials are primarily in the absorption and development, and Xers and boomers are thinking about how do they take the knowledge that they've learned and that domain experience and be able to translate it and transfer it in a way that helps improve and develops the government's mission, if you will. How do we deliver better healthcare outcomes to our veterans, as an example? How might the Department of the Social Security Administration help develop better outcomes for our retirees? And so I think you can easily accomplish that. At HP ourselves, we face the same exact challenges. And we do that by driving this intergenerational collaboration in a way that allows everyone to have a voice at the table, and it helps improve and feels like everyone is rowing in exactly the same direction.
Yeah, for sure. That obviously is the way to get to mission more than anything, is rowing in the same direction. So how do you see the sort of future of hiring and government getting younger and early talent workers into the fold?
I think whether we want to agree with it or not, there's a bifurcation that's happened in the United States in terms of red versus blue. But I think the government seeks to help address both of these sets of populations, right? And I think there's more that binds us than divides us, I think, as Americans. And I think the more that we can focus, and I've said this earlier, but when we can focus on what the mission outcome is, whether it's in our civilian agencies, our defense agencies, and get people rallied around what matters and why it matters, right? The what and the how matter as much. If I think about it, in my career at HP, I've been with HP for 34 years. It's really the only job I've ever had. The reason that I've stayed with this company as long as I have is I believe that we make the best printers and the best PCs, and we deliver the best outcomes for customers. And that's why I came to this company and why I stay with this company. I think that same analogy holds true in government work. And while you and I have talked a little bit about the handcuffs that government might be able to provide with regards to retirement and financial stability, I think there's still an element in terms of youthful exuberance that can help change and provide digital outcomes that are good for our country.
Yeah, ultimately that's the goal, right? Is the best service delivery to the citizens and the best outcomes for the agencies and for all of us here. Todd, thanks so much for being on the show with us.
Good to be with you today, Ross.
Thanks for listening to GovExec Daily. Our show was produced by Adam Butler and hosted by me, Ross John Fortuna. We want to thank Todd Gustafson for joining the program. Our music is the song Signals by Catfish Dancing. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can email us any feedback at podcast@govexec.com or hit us up on Twitter @govexec. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk to you later.